literally a 10-second video of you picking this high-end lock in 10 seconds with a butter knife.
Yep.
Hey everyone, and welcome to our Aligning Life and Wealth series, where we're making money mean more by aligning it with aspects of life that matter most. We're interviewing what I like to call our life experts. From diet to home security, their services have a great impact on the lives of many. I'm Michael Conway, President and CEO of Conway Wealth, and I'm here today and I'm excited to introduce you to Ryan Quirk, CEO of Sparrow Risk Group. Ryan, it's great to see you. Great to have you today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, good to see you for sure. Okay, Let's get started. Let's kick this off. So to start, you are what I would call a securities expert. Tell us a little bit about how you made your way to this aspect of work. Tell us a little bit about your journey and your career path.
Sure, I'd love to. So the journey has been definitely an interesting one, to say the least. But the idea for Sparrow Risk Group really started in 2019. I found myself on a government contract in Afghanistan as a sniper, and it was a protective security contract for the Department of State. And I realized that I had two things that could be really impactful in the space. Number one, I had a network of just extraordinary practitioners of protective security holistically. That includes intelligence, the actual protective security piece, or the technological security piece. So I realized that I had all of these very, very talented individuals who helped train me and guide me through my journey. So I thought there was something to add to the marketplace there. And then what I realized was a gap in the industry, a gap in what I'll call the soft skills. A lot of people think of security as this just someone with a gun standing there waiting for something to happen. While that is a part of security, if you're drawing your weapon, something's gone tragically wrong. Things like human behavior and pattern recognition are extremely important. Understanding how cybersecurity fits into a holistic protective security detail, and also information security. In today's day and age, there are huge vulnerabilities in our day-to-day lives. That little thing we carry in our pocket that we text all day from, that's a beacon. So if you don't know how to secure that, you're exposed, and your information could be just as dangerous as a physical attack. So we really decided, some of my very close friends and I, to start Sparrow Risk Group and create a holistic, full spectrum security and intelligence solution for the civilian.
Okay. All right. There's a lot to unpack there. You just said a mouthful. So we'll get to a lot of it. Tell us a little bit about Sparrow Risk Group and what the company does. So I got a little bit of it, but let's go a little bit deeper, please.
Sure. So Sparrow Risk Group is a true full spectrum risk mitigation firm. So we really can break it down into four main pillars. First is going to be security and protection for the business or family. Second will be cybersecurity, also for the business or family. We also do travel risk mitigation services. So that is international trips, whether they're for leisure or business. We're able to track itineraries and also extract people from problematic situations they may find themselves in, like the crisis in Gaza or elsewhere, like Afghanistan a few years prior. So we help private enterprises and private businesses have access to, in essence, task forces that are known in the government space, where we'll take a problem, which is often nuanced and multifaceted, and we bring in the true experts from each individual piece and create a holistic solution for you. And lastly, we have Sparrow Insights and our crisis communications. So Sparrow Insights is intelligence, but intelligence that is packaged in a way that is useful to you. That's why getting to know our clients is so important. So we need to know what business you're in, what interests you, what your vulnerabilities and risks are. And once we know that, we can tailor fit the messaging to you to make it useful in your day-to-day life.
Gotcha. One of the things you actually did for myself and my family was a residential, you're going to fill in the right words for me, but you did a risk assessment of my personal house.
Yep.
And vulnerabilities that I was like, well, That's interesting. I would never in a million years would have thought. I mean, I have a camera, I have this, I have that. And you came in and you were showing me a lot of things that may be a bit uncomfortable. One example I would want to give. I keep telling this story. I have this very expensive, or what I perceive to be expensive, lock on the front door.
They're high end. They're high end locks.
I'm not gonna say the name of the brand.
Yep.
But so I was in here in my office working, and you were around the property with your team, and then you brought me outside to show me literally a 10-second video of you picking this high end lock in 10 seconds with a butter knife.
Yep.
And so a lot of my perceived security kind of went, out the window. So that's just one little example.
Yep.
So tell us about, so I've been through that, but tell our audience, if you could, a little bit about this home security assessment and what you do there and why and how that works.
Right. So one of the specialties that I have over the course of my long career, I am a covert entry specialist. So that basically means I'm trained to exploit the security in a site or a home to gain access covertly. Now, that's a fancy way of saying that's what criminals do, right? Criminals hate jail. That's an objective fact. So when they want to help themselves to either something within your home, a car, jewelry, money, or maybe they want access to you, the individual, it really is a wide spectrum what the reason why they're there. But the fact is that criminals are using, in their own way, covert entry to gain access and get out before you or the police know they're there. So I basically reverse engineered my skill set in identifying vulnerabilities within a structure. And I created an assessment, and I purposely made it look like a home inspection, like when you buy a home. So it's outlined the same way. So it's familiar enough and easy to understand. But to your point, it often will point out vulnerabilities that are a little bit unsettling, but it's okay because after the report, I already have tiered the vulnerabilities. This is high risk. This is medium. This is nice to have, or this is a need to have. So I take out all the guesswork. And unfortunately, I like to say it's the illusion of security. Influence and marketing and things like that, they're all around us, right? Whether it's, something in the mainstream media that maybe you're getting two conflicting stories on the same event. That's influence, right? It's everywhere around us. So when you have marketing, every lock is going to say they're the best lock out there. They want to sell more locks. So everything is a business. So what I do is I go in and I actually test the locks. Like to your point, you had very, very high-end locks. However, in 95% of the homes that I visit, and we're talking homes that are 2,000 square feet or 20,000 square feet, I find the same percentage of vulnerabilities in the installation. So what I did is I exploited the installation of your lock. Somebody who installed that missed a step or did not double check something. And that allowed me to simply walk the bolt back with, like you said, a butter knife. So the lock works fine, but the installation is what I exploited. I can exploit the design or the installation.
There's something about the butter knife aspect of it that hurt the most, right? It wasn't a sophisticated tool you used that a criminal might. It was like, it was a butter knife. That's brutal.
Yep.
So let's take it a step further. So cameras and angle. One of the other things you showed me is, so even in the, whatever the out of the box kit I was using, he had motion detection devices throughout the house. But you were showing me literally, because they're heat seeking, you could put up a sheet or a blanket and still walk past these motion detection devices and beat them. So that they're, again, something I knew nothing about.
So, I always say anything made by man can be exploited by man. And unfortunately, with technology and with the social media and the internet and YouTube specifically, if you go on YouTube, and I encourage the listeners to also do this, just type in, lock picking. You'll see there's hundreds and hundreds of videos on how to pick locks, a lot of instructional videos. So any person who may have nefarious intent can sit there with some time and really practice this skill set. And the same is true for what I did with the infrared sensors. You had passive infrared sensors, right? So they go off of heat. Well, it basically, not to get too far down the rabbit hole, it uses the temperature in the room, and you cross between, 2 points, and it sees a difference, a variation. So all I did is I used a rug, which is routinely found by entry doors, right, to wipe your feet. And I blocked my heat signature with it, and I moved slowly in a direction and manner that would exploit the vulnerabilities of a lower end passive infrared sensor. The basic sensors that you get with most alarm systems, and even the do-it-yourself ones, they are very exploitable. So the way we get around that is we create redundancies. And you don't need high-end equipment per se. It's obviously the higher-end equipment you can afford is great, but you don't necessarily need high-end equipment to create a very effective layer of security. You just have to know to place it. And that's a false sense of security is often given to the client when they have their alarm installed, because they say, hey, a professional installed my alarm. But if you do a little digging, typical alarm installers, now this is not true for everybody, I'm just stating objective fact. An alarm installer only needs 16 to 24 hours of training to get certified and then be put in the field. Now, there's obviously on-the-job training, but you're going to get both ends of the spectrum, somebody who's very, very good in experience and somebody who may be new. You don't know who you're getting. So that's why having a professional take a look at your home security system is very important.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've talked to you about this before. We refer to a lot of the people that we work with are family stewards, right? And it's that protective, whether it's financial planning and all the work that we do, but really taking care of the family in total. So I thought you as a guest would be particularly interesting because of the whole security aspect and a lot of things going on in the world today that are different maybe than it might have been 10 or 15 years ago.
Yep.
What are the top things people should consider when it comes to their security? And you can do this either as it pertains to the house and or their personal security out there in day-to-day life.
One of the biggest things that I see is awareness has really taken a back seat. So the first step is really be aware, right? So we're always looking down and in, and we're looking at our phones constantly or whatever device it is. We're looking at our navigation in the vehicle, and we're not actually taking in what's going on around us. Human beings are often quite predictable, and you can identify anomalies. We like to use that term, anomalies, within their behavior. So something as simple as walking down the street and all of a sudden someone makes an abrupt left turn and their pace quickens. You should probably pay attention to that. Now, it may be something completely benign, like they forgot something in their car, or it could be that they saw something you didn't and you should pay attention. So we always say most likely, most dangerous. What is the most likely reason? What is the most dangerous reason? And where it'll fall on that spectrum, we don't know, but you should pay attention. Everybody needs to kind of zoom out a bit and really pay attention to your surroundings. Next, I believe, would be information leakage. That's the term I use. We are giving away way too much information in our day-to-day lives. Something as simple as the phone number you put in when you purchase something at the pharmacy, right? All of that is tracked. Data is very, very it's almost a currency these days. If you think about it, information is a currency within itself. Companies pay a lot of money for information.
Yeah, they do.
So every time you put your name or your phone number or your address on something, it's going somewhere. They're not asking for no reason. Now, it may be going to a broker, a data broker, or something to that effect, but you really don't know where it's going. So any chance you get, don't give away personal information, because it's just creating a thread to connect you to something else, like something like your social media postings. One tactic that I've seen criminals use is they will look at, if you post a picture from your phone, there's something called metadata on your photo. So it'll actually have your location on the photo. And especially when you post on social media, those are what's called geotagged, right? They're geotagged on where you are. That's why when you go to put your location, it knows where you are. So someone can look and predict a behavior. Maybe the typical work week is Monday through Friday. So they may look at every posting you make after 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. So what that does is that creates a pattern. So if there's been 100 posts over a year and they see that 90% of those posts were from one location at that time and those days of the week, you can reasonably deduct that that is where you live. Because at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, where are you going to be most likely? You're going to be home.
So they simply extrapolate. I actually just
Sure.
read, I forget where I saw it this morning, but a professional athlete, their obviously their schedules, their games when they're out of town, a player just got their home broken into when he was at work, right?
Yep.
So the fact pattern is there to be seen, and then
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
matter of what we do. So how does somebody then protect? You're on vacation and you're sharing selfies and you're sharing pictures with on your social. What do you do there? Is there any way to protect against that, or just
You
making
know,
sure the home security is tight?
well, I love that question because I actually wrote a piece on this, and I'll get it over to you. It's very, very informative. It's short. Don't worry. But really, what you can do is, like you said, there's patterns, but also if you look at what the connective tissue was in that instance, a lot of people will resonate with this. It's social media, right? Anything open source. We call it open source intelligence in the field, or OSINT for short. We use it all the time. If somebody wants to hire a new nanny, we'll do a background check, sure. And yeah, the credit will look good, or the pedigree stuff that you find in a background check, no criminal charges. But what do they really like? What does somebody really like? You know how you can tell that about somebody? You go through their social media. You find out what they do on the weekends. You find out what their patterns are there. Where do they frequent? These are very important things when trying to determine a profile on someone. They're called pattern of life profiles, but very important. So to get back on topic, you really want to button up what you're giving away. And I've actually done this with a professional sports team. I actually taught situational awareness to the wives. And I had them all in the room. And what they didn't know is that I had been following all of them through what we call a sock puppet account for months. I knew this was going to happen months prior. I knew the people that were going to be in the class. And I created a fake account using just some random person I found on the internet. And I used some predictive programming. And I said, okay, these people will try and be private. So how do I get them to accept my request to follow them? Everybody accepted the request. And what I began to do was I began to look through all of the profiles and see who was leaking the most information. And there was one individual who was very, very, very courteous with the amount of information they were putting out, but it wasn't direct. It was indirect. So it was something as simple as them taking a picture of their child in front of their house. But what I did was I was able to zoom in on the reflection of the window and find the number on the front of the house. Now, I didn't have the address yet. All I had was the number, but that's okay because then they made a post about where the child went to school and they tagged the school. So now if you think about it, how far are people really going to drive to bring their child to school? You're a parent. You're probably going to live within 30 minutes maximum.
I would say 15, but yeah,
there you go.
Whatever the concentric is.
Right. So I start creating rings. So now I create a ring, 30 minutes, what would be travel time in a residential or suburban area. We're talking maybe 10 miles. That's a very small radius. So now I just need to start doing reverse Google searches on landmarks that I may see near the school. And then it went further from there because then I was able to see parts of license plates. So in one photo, another photo, there was the first two letters of the license plate, and then there was two more. So all you need is a little bit of time and some dedication, and you can really get a lot of information. And what I had done to prove my point is in the beginning of class, I took a Post-it note and I wrote a number and a color on the Post-it note, and I took a photograph of it. The class didn't know what was happening. They just figured I was maybe a little weird. And then what I did was I posted that to my fake account. And then I told them, hey, I've been monitoring you remotely for months.
How did that go over, by the way? I'm just curious as to how that class
went. I was worried. Some were wowed, some were laughing, and others were downright frightened by the capability of just some dedicated person wanting to get the information. So that all boils back to bring it home is be careful what you're showing the rest of the world. Your profile should always be private. Is that going to be, bulletproof? Obviously not, because all of those profiles are private. Next, if you're going to leave your home for extended periods of time, the criminals know about the light trick. The criminals know about, having somebody come and pick up your packages. You don't want packages or mail sitting out. But you can do other things. If you have a trusted neighbor, have them move the car in and out of the driveway, perhaps, so it looks like somebody actually is coming and going. Obviously, that's dependent upon the area you live in. You don't want to leave your vehicle exposed because there's threats with that on top of all of this. But things like, getting security film on your window so people can't window shop. The old adage, don't put your TV box on the corner after Christmas. That still holds true. But even bumper stickers, you'd be surprised how much information I can get just for your bumper stickers, because that private school that your kid goes to, that you said you're very proud they're an honor student. Why do you need to tell the public your child's an honor student at that school? You're proud. What you're doing is you're giving the criminal, they're now putting you in a net worth bracket. They may be accurate or not, but if a school costs $30,000 a year, well, now they know you have more money than a lot of the people driving around.
You look at some of these with the elite colleges and the elite prep schools, and then, that's an interesting fact.
Because I can just look up tuition.
Ryan, can we go back to just for a hot second? Sure. Is there anything you want to put a bow on with what you do for that home security assessment?
It's called the Sparrow Safe Home Program. I didn't mention that before. The one really big piece of advice that I want people to leave with, and I'll tighten this up with a bow, is if you don't know where you are, if you don't know your vulnerabilities currently, you can't really fix it. So vulnerability assessments and residential assessments, they're very, very important, even if it's just for peace of mind. I always tell people, I give people peace of mind. If you have a concern, I come in, I take a holistic look at your threat and vulnerability, and I will start prioritizing approaches that are tailor-made for you. I don't cast a wide net because that's one, it's more expensive, it's not as effective, and it doesn't maximize the return on the investment for the client. So what I always recommend is get a threat and vulnerability assessment, get a residential assessment, and then you know where you are. Then you can make an educated decision.
That's fantastic. And as we head towards a wrap here, is there one or two, or I don't know how you want to do it, one piece of advice or a couple, three that me, about my place, but for your typical client, what are your biggest pieces of advice for them?
At some point, you have to listen to that voice in your head, right? So the human mind is designed to burn less calories than more calories. And that is, it wants to think less. Our minds are inherently lazy. We will connect dots. You ever see those excerpts where they'll remove like the letter A from all the words and we can still read the paragraph?
Sure.
It's because our mind is connecting dots. It's heuristics. It's using limited information to come to a reasonable conclusion. So what you want to do is you want to really avoid saying it can't happen to me, because that's denial. That's your brain trying to protect you. It doesn't want to stress you out. It wants you to feel comfortable, and because that's where it's burning less calories. So if your mind is telling you maybe I should call somebody, go ahead and give them a call. If it's just a consultation, it's going to really
our brain, to your point, always it's not going to happen. It's not me.
Everybody says it.
It's the other person. This is going to happen to. It
Everybody
would never happen.
says it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So if you're concerned, I really, especially if you're in a higher net worth bracket, you have risks that other people may not have just due to exposure. And with the hyperconnectivity of the internet, it is not hard to find out if someone is higher net worth or how exposed they might be. So really getting these assessments to find out where you stand and where your vulnerabilities lie is very important.
Okay, so awesome. Thank you so much. So thank you for joining the Aligning Life and Wealth series and for the impact you're creating by allowing people to best align their life and wealth through security, which is what we've talked about here this afternoon. You can find this video along with the rest of our Aligning Life and Wealth series on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. Thanks a million, Ryan, and thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
All right, man. Thanks.
Appreciate it.